how to build a sales process. That's what we're talking about today on the Biz Chat. So if you're a company that has just hired a salesperson, you probably don't have a sales process worked out yet. So if you're the business owner, you're used to selling clients and bringing customers in, and you know how to talk about the business, you know how to talk about your vision, but it becomes a lot harder to do that once you start bringing on salespeople who are supposed to go out and sell for you. So that's where you need to start working on getting a process in place. And there's a lot of confusion around what exactly is a sales process, what does it look like, how does it get documented. So that's what I hope to go into today and give you some of our learnings over the last year or so of beginning to build a sales team. When you get a salesperson on your team who is just a rock star, who has natural talent and can just go out and bring in clients, that's kind of what I think a lot of business owners hope to find. It's number one, those people are very hard to come by. They're usually gainfully employed elsewhere. And the other thing is, if you've got somebody who's just a cowboy who can go out and wing it and bring in clients, it's not scalable, right? Because then you have to find more of those people. They all have their own angles, their own unique spin, their own elevator pitches, and there's no real consistent message. So this is why it becomes really important to build a sales process, because you need to, especially if you want to build a scalable business, have a system for onboarding, recruiting, training, and managing salespeople, and know that they can more or less follow the formula and get the same result. So the best thing to do is to look at giving your salespeople a set of tools that they can use to deploy under given circumstances. So for example, I'm going to go through a list of these things now. We're talking about qualifying leads, getting leads, bringing them in the door, managing how they schedule demos or pitches, how they follow up and close. What we found is that the best way to do that and the best way to uncover what that process looks like is to use role playing. So when you're having a weekly sales meeting with your team, you can actually kind of do little role playing scenarios where you say like, okay, I'm the client and I call in, hey, I'm looking to buy your agency services and I have questions around your pricing. So it's a little bit silly and a little uncomfortable at first, but if you actually go through role-playing scenarios, it's kind of amazing to hear how your salespeople talk, how they handle objections, how they describe your company. Really worth doing and making that kind of a part of your weekly or monthly sales meetings so that you can start narrowing down, okay, actually I wouldn't have handled that objection that way, I would have said this, or you forgot to mention this. Very useful in uncovering your process. So let's talk about qualifying leads. When somebody comes to your company to ask about, if it's a SaaS company, maybe they're asking questions about your product or wanting to get on a demo. If you're a consulting or a service business, maybe they want to set up a meeting to talk about their needs. What you really need out of your salespeople or your business development people is a system for qualifying those leads to make sure that you're only getting high quality leads in the door and you're not wasting your time with tire kickers. Now, a way to do that is to look at what makes a good lead. Sometimes we're a little bit too addicted to just demographic information. We're like, okay, companies of this size that do this much in revenue, or you're talking to somebody with X title. Those are all really great pieces of information to know, and you should know that as part of your target personas, but it's important with your salespeople to dig a little deeper than that. So instead of just knowing kind of the high-level demographic information of a lead, actually try to look for what problem do they have and can we solve it. So you can train your sales leads, for example, to start asking questions like, their budget, their timeline, what service they need, what's their biggest problem, and can your company actually help them with that? So for example, with our company, Proposify, it's not enough to have somebody asking for a demo who just has a certain company size, but what we really want our salespeople to do on the phone is to say, how many proposals do you write a month and how big of a problem is it? Because really, if you're only writing one or two, it doesn't matter if you're a 5,000 person company, you probably don't need our product and it's probably not worth their time to go through the sales process with them. So that's something with regards to qualifying leads that you want to make sure is very consistent and your salespeople know how to handle it. Now, the next thing that you'll want to have documented as part of your sales process is the idea of handling objections. We all get objections. Do you have this feature? Your competitor has that feature. Why should I choose you over competitor X? Or maybe it's pricing. You guys are too expensive. Can I have this plan? Or my budget is this. Can you work within that? So objection handling and dealing with pricing and budget objections is a very important tool to train your salespeople on and make sure that they're all handling it consistently. You don't want one sales rep, making up something on the fly that just isn't true, or you don't want them selling your products or services at a cheaper price just to be able to close the deal. So you really need to kind of set up some structure around that. So for example, if it's talking to a new lead about their budget, you'd want to have a consistent way for them to ask what your budget is. If a client says, I don't have one, or they don't want to tell you, come up with a way to kind of get it out of them by saying, our prices start at this, or most projects are in this kind of ballpark, and just having that consistent way to kind of be able to pull it out of them. The next part of your sales process is something like demoing or pitching. So again, if you're service-based, you're probably used to doing pitches, which would be more so maybe throwing up a pitch deck, maybe getting together over Skype or in person to run through it and kind of pitch your proposal. If you're a SaaS company, it's more getting on the phone or doing a screen share to demo your product. But either way, you want some consistency in how you pitch or demo. So you'd want to make sure that your demos are set to a certain time limit, that you make sure that in the qualification process, your salesperson has documented their number 2 or 3 key problems, and make sure that what you're pitching or what you're demoing is actually addressing those key problems. You wouldn't want to stand up and do a pitch and talk to a client about solving issues that really aren't a key concern for them. It's not really top of mind. You're not as likely to close that. And finally, you want some kind of process around how you follow up and close deals and then hand them off to account management. So closing is always a difficult game sometimes, especially if it's a high-priced service that you're offering. The sales process can be long. It can involve a lot of meetings and a lot of follow-up emails to be able to get it closed. But again, you want some kind of consistency in your process. So 2 things that we found. One is that being able to ask your lead, after you've given them a pitch or a demo, you want to really ask them, what's it going to take? As salesy as that sounds, what is required to close this? Sometimes leads will kind of try to push you off a little bit by saying like, oh, okay, well, we just need to discuss it, or we're going to need a few weeks to decide. But when you're on the phone talking to them about follow-up stuff, you can't really let them just continually push off making a decision. So a great thing to ask is, okay, you're on board. Let's do it today. What's stopping us from getting it done today? And have them tell you, oh, I need to talk to my CFO. I need to get this through legal. And then just keep following up as soon as they cross off those tasks. Keep asking them what's needed until you close. The second thing is using time constraints and incentives officially. So sometimes clients will ask for something extra, like, can you also include training in the deal? And a salesperson might be inclined to just give the client whatever they ask for because they're desperate to close the deal, but instead train them to use time constraints. So you could say, hey, we could include the training for free in this, but I can only offer this to you if you say yes by next Wednesday at 4 o'clock. So give them some kind of time constraint. Otherwise, you're just giving away stuff for free and there's no real incentive for them to close. So putting all of those different tactics and tools into the sales process will make sure that your sales reps are closing more efficiently and effectively. The final thing to do is just document this stuff, whether it's written, whether it's videos. Make sure this is all somewhere that you can easily hire a new sales rep, train them, onboard them, and they're all using the same tools. Hope you enjoyed this. If you're working on building a sales process and hiring and growing a sales team, I'd love to hear from you. Just email me, kyle@proposify.com, with any questions you'd like us to cover, and I'd be happy to do it. Make sure you hit subscribe so you get more videos Every week we're pumping out content. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.